Hi, this is Shell of Shell's Creations, and today I want to show you how to use the Scribbles 2 Alpha in the brushes format to quickly make an adorable title for your layout. We'll be using this Scribbles 2 Alpha, and I'll be demonstrating it on the Letters from Home Quickies. I think I'm going to pick this one right up here in the top right corner. Okay, here's the stack, and I have zoomed in so that I'm ready to add the letters to it. I like to play with the letters a little bit when I'm finished, and so I don't want to just stamp them on. And because of that, I want to put each letter on a new layer. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new layer. The next thing I need to do is make sure that I have a good color. I think I'm going to start out with red, although I'll show you how you can change the color as it goes. I just want to click in there till I find a red that I like. And then I go to my brushes palette. I have my alpha loaded into my brushes. In Photoshop, that's a fairly simple thing to do to load new brushes. In Photoshop Elements, it depends on the version you're using what the steps are. So go ahead and Google adding brushes to PSE in whatever, and it'll explain very quickly how to do that. Okay, I think we just need a word on here. I'm going to choose one that's fairly long. How about Snuggles? Okay, so let's start with a capital S. And stamp that on. Now, it doesn't really matter where I stamp them because of how I'm doing this on a new layer. I can move them later. The only important thing that you need to know is to stamp each letter on a new layer if you want to be able to move them later. A new layer is Command or Control N if you are in Photoshop Elements. If you are in Photoshop, the real version, it's Command or Control Shift N. Again, the only important part that you need to remember there each time that you do a new layer is that don't stamp off the edge of the page. If your word is running too long, and ours might run too long here, not N, I need U. If we're running too long and we run off the edge of the page, when you stamp, it's not like adding a photograph or something where it's still there, it's hanging off the edge of the page. With a stamp, it'll only stamp what fits on the page. The rest of it you're going to have to, it will chop it off, and so you would have to redo it. So let's go ahead, GG Snuggles, was that what I said? L. You can see that this can be easier than getting your pings in. It kind of depends. You could accomplish the same thing by loading them in as a ping and then recoloring them. This way they already have the color added to them. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to tweak them a little bit. As you can see, we could just leave it just like that and we're done. But I'm going to tweak them just a little bit. And to do that, I want them a little bit smaller because they go further across the page than I wanted. And so I'm going to first shrink them, select all the layers, hold down the corner, and in Photoshop I have to hold down Shift. In Photoshop Elements it automatically keeps the proportions. Okay, I want it to be about that long and check mark. And then I'm just going to tweak each one just a little bit. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Move them to the middle so that I can see. I kind of like how some of the letters tilt just a little bit, but I'm going to add just a little bit more tilt to it. I'm going to tip the S a little bit more towards the N. The N's kind of square up and down. I'll play with it and see. I'll put it right there. Let's tip the U just a little bit more the other direction, a little bit more, and I'm going to move it just a smidgen so it's not quite overlapping the N that much. The G's look a lot alike because they are exactly alike, and if we were actually doodling them, the chances that we could get it to turn out perfectly alike is not very good. And so I'm going to also use tilting the letters and rotating them a bit as a way to modify them just a smidgen and make them look a little different from one another. Let's turn this one the opposite direction because I think if I turn them the same direction, and I'm going to move it a little further apart because to me they look a little bit too much like too many circles there, almost a little confusing that it's a G. Okay, and that L is close and snuggled but a little too far on top. I think I'm going to put it about right there and twist it around. And again, you could keep it the way that you've stamped it, but if you want to play with it a little bit, if they're on different layers like this, it's a lot easier to play with it well, it's possible to play with it. Otherwise, you've got to cut around each one and move them. Move the E. I don't want to go too far. It's not that I want the end of my word to go up in the air. And I love how the lowercase s tilts away just a little bit. All right, so there's the title the way I would leave it. I would move it. Right now it's covering up the stamp over here, which kind of makes it look fake because you can't color with a stamp. Can't color with crayon or pencil on top of a felt item, so I'd move it just a little bit so that it's just on the paper. This alphabet works great on any solid paper. If it's a really busy background, it's kind of difficult. Newsprints, ledger papers are all really nice for this. Okay, the other thing is you change your mind at this point what color you want, you can change it. Let's decide that we wanted to make the whole thing blue. We have too much red on our layout, we decided we wanted it blue. Let's add a new fill layer. First, let's make sure that we have the color we want. So let's go in here and pick a blue that, let's see, do we like the color down here in the, a little bit darker than that maybe, right there. Let's pick a blue that we like, add a color fill layer. Now, it's possible that you could, if you know that this is where you want these letters to stay for sure, then you can go ahead and merge them together and just clip this colored layer to the alpha or the entire title all at once. But if you might be moving them around again, then you probably want to color them one at a time. Holding down your Alt key, you can go ahead and click when your mouse or cursor is over top of the line in between the two layers. You can go, it'll become that little double circle arrow icon, and that indicates that if you click, it will clip it to it. In Photoshop Elements, it's just Control G to clip it to it. In Photoshop, it's more complicated than that. I think it's Control Shift G or something like that. I use the Alt key all the time. You'll notice that I'm holding down the Alt key. I'm clicking on that layer and dragging it up to duplicate it, and then holding down the Alt key and clicking. And so because I'm using the Alt key over and over again here and my mouse, it's quite quick to go ahead and change the color of the entire thing to blue. The only other thing that I would point out here is with this particular alpha, it does kind of look like a crayon or a colored pencil is scribbled over top of things. And crayon and colored pencil are both solid enough that they might cover up the words behind. And not quite. You can read a little bit of the words and the lines are poking through. But if you wanted it to look more, if you wanted more of the background to seep through, you would want to change the color to, or change the blending mode on it to multiply. Did I pick a letter that's close here? Yes, I did. No, I picked the one on the very edge over here. There we go. When you switch it to multiply, it's going to affect the color quite a bit. In fact, it's a little less obvious with the red. But you can see that now all of the letters are visible through. So you can play around with the blending modes as well if that's something that you want to tweak and play around with to make it look even more realistic. But to me, that looks like you've just picked up a colored pencil and kind of scribbled on the top of there, and I love how that turns out. If you have any more questions, this is a great alpha to add to your collection. You will find yourself using it over and over again to create these fun titles. You can shrink them down and put them on an emphasized word on a tag. There's a lot of fun ways that you can work with them. I'll put the link to the Scribbles 2 alpha in the comments down below. If you have any questions, you can reach me at shells.creations1@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can be notified when I add new tutorial videos to this collection. Thanks. See you next time.